Good afternoon, Chamber members. On behalf of the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce Board Chair Darren Herman and the Chamber team, and of course myself, Molly Grover, thank you for joining us today for the February monthly membership luncheon presented by our ultimate sponsors, Medical Associates Clinic and Health Plans, Midwest One Bank, Q Casino, and TH Media. Thank you to our ultimate sponsors for their ongoing support. And we're so excited. Today's program is an update on passenger rail service, which has been a priority of the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce for a long time. But there's special folks that have really dedicated their work to making this a priority. And so we're anxious to hear about this update today. Before we get to that, our sponsors for today's luncheon include Anderson Window and Doors, Cartograph, Collins Community Credit Union, Digital Dubuque, Envision, Fidelity Bank, Forge Social, Grand River Center, Grand River Medical Group, Holiday Inn, John Deere Dubuque Works, Mercy One Dubuque, Stonehill Communities, Town Square Media, Unity Point Healthcare Dubuque, and U.S. Bank. Let's give them all a virtual round of applause. And of course, our ultimate sponsors as well, Medical Associates Clinic and Health Plans, once again, Midwest One Bank, Q Casino, and TH Media. Today, we are pleased to have two presenters cover the topic of passenger rail service, Chandra Pravada and Dave Solberg. After each presentation, there will be time for questions. We encourage you to put any questions in the chat feature, and we will get to those at the end of both presentations. Our first presenter is a longtime friend at the Chamber of Commerce, Chandra Pravada, Director of Transportation Planning and Transit Services at Dubuque Metropolitan Planning Organizational, Regional Transit Authority 8, and Regional Planning Affiliation. In this role, he oversees activities of all three organizations. He is originally from India, where he earned a BA in architecture. He studied at the University of Kansas, where he earned an MA in urban planning. It is my pleasure to introduce our first presenter this afternoon, Mr. Chandra Pravada. Chandra.
Thank you very much, Molly, for that introduction. Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so today I will give a little bit update on the passenger rail. You might have heard about passenger rail like 6 years back, then 10 years back. So your question will be, why are we hearing about this again now? So a couple of things are happening with passenger rail. So before I go into presentation, in spring of 2019, we had a meeting with the Secretary of Transportation from Illinois Department of Transportation. And the question what we asked the Secretary is there any chance that we'll get a passenger rail to Dubuque? Because in Illinois budget at that time, there's funding for Chicago to Rockford. So we asked the question, the first question what the Secretary asked is, what is the cost of doing your project? Because the feasibility study done in 2008, it's done by Amtrak, and it did not have all the costs. And when they walked into negotiations with CN Rail, they got surprised with the cost what CNN raised requesting. So he said, right now, we don't have realistic cost. He really wanted to know what the real cost is. But he also had a couple of conditions on it. He said, he don't want a rail going for like 7 hours between Dubuque to Chicago. It means that it's not competing with the automobile. In that case, it's not that useful. So he wants something that can be used for a daily activity. And he also wants to have a real cost for what stations will be costing, what the annual maintenance cost is, and so on. So once we get that cost, then he said, well, we'll take a look at it and see, is it even realistic to do the project? So that's where the feasibility study started. So in the past, when the feasibility studies are done, it's done by one entity, and they just did it by themselves. They did not contact the locals. They did not contact the public to see what they want and why they want. So the Illinois Department of Transportation stated that it should be a neutral party doing the study, and it should be done through a group of members from the cities and counties and us, rather than the DOT or Amtrak leading the study. So that's where we are right now. So right now, we are doing a feasibility study, and we want to give you guys some update what the study will contain and what the outcomes will be and where we'll go with that. So the overall today my presentation will have 4 parts. One is the stakeholder group. That is very crucial because in the past we have a stakeholder group, but it's mostly like saying, hey, we like this, we like that, but they did not play an active role in designing the study and all that. This time we changed it. The stakeholders are the people who will be running the show and who will be, doing the study. So the role of the stakeholders, what's the scope of the project, and what's the timeline. So those are the 4 topics I'll be touching today.
Chandra, if you want to put this in presentation mode so we can see your slides.
Oh,
We can
thought
see,
I did.
yep, we see your screen. We just need to see the presentation mode.
I thought I did. Okay. Huh. So you guys can't see my presentation. Okay.
We can see the, okay, we can see it. It's just not in presentation mode.
Yeah.
So we can see your upcoming slides as well.
Yeah, the problem is it's going to second screen. So.
Okay. Nope, that's fine. As long as you just click along on the side there, we'll be okay. We can still read it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make it bigger. How about that? Okay, there we go. Okay, maybe. Okay, yeah. So the study, as I said, there's going to be a passenger rail service as of now from Chicago to Rockford. They got funded for stage 1 environmental. So right now they're going through that. Illinois DOT is going through that. So our study will be from Dubuque to Rockford, not including Rockford because the station location is already finalized in Rockford. So we'll be looking from Rockford to Dubuque in between. Now, the cities that will be playing a vital role in this will be City of Dubuque, City of East Dubuque, City of Galena, and City of Freeport. And the agencies is our agency, and then there's Black Hawk Hill Regional Council, Illinois DOT, and the Rockford MPO area. Then we have Joe Davis and Stevenson counties, and we have the rail group. So this is how the stakeholder group got organized. Later on, we did get requests from Chamber of Commerce and other economic development agencies to be involved. They will be involved in the study as we go into the study and start getting information for the respective areas. So what does the stakeholders need to do? One, we ask them to design the scope of services. What do they want from the study rather than someone writing it? We want them to provide us information what they want, so they did. Then we did seek funding from Illinois DOT. Then we go through the selection process, hire a third-party consultant, and then this stakeholder group will do the major project decisions. It means that, for example, right now we are counting stations at 3 locations: Dubuque, Galena, and Freeport. However, if we want more stations, the group should decide if they want more stations. If they want more stations, they should also understand that you're adding more stations means you're increasing the travel time for the rail, and not only that, you're increasing the cost for the respective city. So they should take all that into consideration, and they should make a decision, and it's their decision, not Illinois DOT's or not our agencies. So the stakeholders will play a very major role in the study, and they will be the liaison for the locals. For example, when the consultant is trying to get information from Dubuque area, he'll be working with City of Dubuque, Dubuque Chamber, Economic Development Agency, and us. So the representative from City of Dubuque will be the lead, and he will be coordinating all these activities among City of Dubuque. So we want to make sure that the stakeholders are the primary contacts in the respective areas. Then at the end, we want to give a study to Illinois DOT. So the scope of services, we broke it down into 3 parts: need and alignment. First question, do we even need it? Do we need a passenger rail? That's the first question we need to address. 2, what's the alignment? Everyone says, hey, it's from Rockford to Dubuque, we should use CN rail. What about the BNSF down south? Why not that? And so on and so forth. Then infrastructure and operations. So what type of track improvements we need? What type of station improvements we need? What type of utilities we need at the stations? And what's the impact of this? Once you get passenger rail, how many jobs will it create? What type of economic development will it generate? And what type of effect will it have on the communities on the corridor? So that's what the scope of services got addressed. I won't go in much detail here, but in needs alignment, as I said, we want to know why, and we want to do a comparison between build and no build, and what's the impact of this project on the environmental, and what's the alternatives. And then in infrastructure and operations, we want to know what the engineering costs are. It's conceptual, not real engineering costs, but more like a 30,000 feet level cost. Because once we get into a final design, you'll have more accurate costs. We want to have station and access analysis because everyone wants a station, but people always forget that there's an annual maintenance and there's a cost involved for the city to do that. What's that cost? Maintenance and overlay facilities. Obviously, the overlay facility will be in Dubuque. What's the cost of maintaining that? Can the city afford that? And so on and so forth. And operation plans, like saying how many times you want to train, what's the cost of having trained so many times, and do you have transit systems supporting it? Because once the train comes, do your cab service, transit systems, everyone can accommodate that, and so on and so forth. So there's logistics that need to be done. And then impact, like how much ridership are we expecting? We don't want someone to say, yeah, we are resuming another 30,000. Where is this 30,000 coming from? How realistic is that? Means we don't want someone to just draw a number from somewhere, because the DOT is not going, will not be going for that. They need accurate information. Financial plans. Yeah, we got a great rail. That's great. Who's paying for it? How are we going to maintain it? Like, are there any grants, or are there any DOT funding for that, and so on and so forth? And the benefit cost, like how much are we paying for it, and how much benefit are we getting out of it? And then what type of cost sharings we should have, what type of policies we should have, and so on and so forth. That's what it is. The study will be doing. So here is the overall timetable. So right now we are here. We got funded from Illinois DOT. We got 340,000 from Illinois DOT to do the study. We did get the scope of services done, and we had a consultant selected by the stakeholders. We just got the contract signed yesterday. So we got a contract in place now. The study will be starting end of this month, and it will go for 14 months. So it will go into Q2 of fiscal year 23. Now, someone asked saying, okay, once the study is done, are we going to jump on the rail and the rail will be getting constructed? No, it will be provided to Illinois DOT, and it's Illinois DOT's decision whether we need to have a project or not. We want to have the right numbers and the right information and the right cost. If the cost is too astronomical and the DOT says, hell no, we can't do this, we understand. If the cost is right and DOT says, yep, we can do it, we can understand, but that will be a DOT decision, not the locals, nor the cities or counties decision, because at the end of the day, it is a intercity rail. So that's where we are with the study. I can answer questions later on after Dave's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chandra. Our second presenter is David Solberg, a native of Northwest Wisconsin and is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and a graduate of the fundraising school in San Rafael, California. David is a member of the Association of Lutheran Development Executives and past member of the National Committee on Planned Giving and the Association of Fundraising Professionals. David is a member of Rotary International and served on the board of directors of Hospice of Dubuque for 9 years. Presently, David is the chair of Ride the Rail, the citizen advocacy group seeking restoration of Chicago Dubuque passenger rail service. Let's give a warm virtual welcome to Mr. David Solberg. David.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly, for that introduction. And I'm happy to be here today. And I need to know where do I need to click?
You need to click on your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. In my PowerPoint, okay, I know. I gotta go. I gotta do it this way. I'm sorry, this is taking a few seconds. Okay. Are we there?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. We're grateful to local artist Gary Olson, who provided the logo, and which is used in our newsletter, and it's used in our media. If you've checked our website at ridetherail.org, or we have a Facebook account. Our newsletter is monthly, so we hope you're familiar with that. If not, we invite you to check it out. We've used this for online petitions and surveys, and it's been well received, and the public enjoys it and shows some familiarity with it. Here's who we are and how we came into being. We're the Citizens Advocacy Group, which was established, is trying to advocate for passenger service from Chicago to Rockford. As you will recall, about 2005 or 6 was a community-wide visioning process, and passenger rail came out as one of the top 10 priorities at that particular time. Passenger rail is the norm for many modern nations, and there are many advocates here in Dubuque. There are over 60 have signed our petitions and joined our group. And as you note from Chandra, a feasibility study is now just underway. A bit of passenger rail history about Dubuque. Not everyone remembers that John Plum had a vision for a transcontinental railroad, which started here in Dubuque. John is buried here in Dubuque. Dubuque was a railway center served by 4 lines. You may recall them: the Chicago Great Western, the Illinois Central, the Milwaukee Road, and the CB&Q, the Burlington. Also, the Burlington hauled all the trains for the Great Northern Railway and Northern Pacific, and making connections to Chicago. In 1974, Amtrak Blackhawk was established, and that survived until 1981. And as you know, right now, the current Amtrak Metro service to Chicago is approved, and there is the feasibility study underway. That's a painting by a local artist, Mark Robinson, who formerly lived in the Galena area. Here's the topic that we address: why tri-state area connection to Chicago? Well, for connections, it would be an economic generator, access to a lot of Chicago activity. It would benefit tri-state tourism, and also our Dubuque colleges and even UW-Platteville gain a lot of students from the Chicagoland area, sometimes as many as multiple high percentage of incoming classes. The popularity for tourism, I'm surprised. A couple of weeks ago, I had a call from a tourism travel generator in Denver, Colorado, asking about the possibility of passenger rail through Galena into Dubuque, and spoke about the area in its attractiveness, as well as just earlier this week, a call from Chicago or from Illinois on the update. Well, let's move the corridor forward. Think of all the benefits of a connection to Chicago. O'Hare Airport hopefully would be easily connected to for international travel. Business travel that you could make with good working time en route for major league sports, and then think of the museums and the theater opportunities and shoppings, as well as Chicago being a rail hub connection. In addition to the airport with its 155 domestic and 58 international nonstop destinations out of O'Hare, passenger rail would also have connections all over east and west, and more coming online all the time. The benefits of modern rail is that they're improving infrastructure, positive train control in technology, a new generation of trains that are ordered and on time. That's the new Amtrak Midwest Charger engine that's being used. These are new Amtrak cars that have been tested between Chicago and east into Michigan, and travel time needs to be competitive with that of an automobile. Passenger rail today, it's really preferred, it's popular, it's economic, it's environmentally friendly, it's safe, it's reliable, and it's comfortable. Just before the pandemic, these are highlights from Amtrak. It had its best operating history. 90% of its operations were covered by ticket service and other sources of income related to the traveler. Capital investment is up in equipment, and nearly 9 out of 10 people surveyed gave high support and satisfaction for their experience on Amtrak and passenger rail. As a preferred mode of transportation for short trips, I just call attention to the green faces for the passenger rail, and also on long distance trips, it ranks well with just the exception of speed. It's a very preferable way to travel. Amtrak often gets, or passenger rail often gets criticized for just being a nostalgia trip into past times. That's not necessarily so. Here's where transportation is by rail today. 31% of the trips are 500 miles or less. That would be the category where Dubuque would be in. The Chicago to Milwaukee route, which is less than 100 miles, is one of the most popular passenger rail routes in the country. Medium distance of 501 to 999 miles is another third of the travelers. Only a third of them go the full trip of 1,000 miles or more. Only 20% of an Amtrak train rider rides the full trip. And if we follow, as we do, various places, the intercity travel in the Great Plains or from various places into major metro areas like Denver or Chicago or Salt Lake City or some other places, passenger rail is very much the preferred route. Here's the economic impact of it. There's a time value. New equipment is Wi-Fi equipped, so there's working time en route, or if it's for personal travel, it's social time or time to read or study. The cost per mile is significant when it comes to building railroads. The land requirement is less. The cost is considerably less. To build a 4-lane highway costs $4 to $6 million. We just researched in rural and suburban areas. And if that comes into an urban area, it's $8 to $10 million per mile. While to build a double track railroad would be $1 to $2 million. So there's that cost factor. The equipment is very durable, and the line itself has a high standard of endurance. It lasts a long time, and the minimal insurance requirements for traveling by train. It's eco-friendly. The train is very popular compared to other fewer air, water, land pollution contributions. Passenger rail is 47% more energy efficient than by car and 36% more energy efficient than by air. And another factor is it's safe. The fatality rate per billion passenger miles traveled, the train is by far the safest, 15 times safer than when you're traveling by auto. your accident on a train is more apt to happen between your home and the station than it is while you're on the passenger train. It's very safety first. If you saw yesterday's USA Today, there was a whole page basically on the traveling of Chicago through Michigan to the Detroit area. And this times of pandemic, the passenger rail is by far the safest option. It's reliable. There's a scheduled service, runs city center to city center. When you're in the city center, you have access to other modes. Dubuque has good systems of transportation for people to have modality around the city. It's weatherproof. There's really no fog or snow delays. Occasionally there will be a snowstorm that can stop it, but that's quite infrequent. And it's comfortable. The seats are spacious. There's good leg room. It's quiet. It's accessible. There are refreshments on board. We've traveled Amtrak on the East Coast. We've traveled it to Salt Lake City a couple times a year over the last decade or so. And when you get there, you arrive relaxed and comfortable at that particular time. Here's the current status, as Chandra just talked about. Chicago to Rockford service, and we're hopeful for Rockford Dubuque with the schedule and stations, as was noted, all to be determined. This is part of a progress that we have worked with high-speed rail to bring the Blackhawk possibility into visibility. You could go to our website and check onto a connection for this document on the Blackhawk route from Chicago to Rockford and then from Rockford to Dubuque. And finally, our advocacy is what really keeps us busy. And we encourage you to join an advocacy group such as Ride the Rail or the Rail Passenger Association or High Speed Rail Alliance. There's a group to bring back the Blackhawk. We work with All Aboard Minnesota and the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition. But right now we are in touch with our legislators, both the State House and the State Senate, advocating that the state of Iowa rejoin the Midwest Passenger Rail Coalition, the planning group for 8 Midwest states for the possibility of passenger rail, and also that we have a specific fund identified for a feasibility study to connect Dubuque to Waterloo. That distance, Chicago to Waterloo, would be the ideal optimum for economic benefit as well as to the service of our people in this area. The other area is we are regularly in touch with our representatives on the importance of, at the federal level, on the importance of infrastructure being helpful, and it will be a critical part of an economic recovery at this particular time, and that they also treat passenger rail equitably with the support of our other venues of transportation, such as airport and our air travel and auto travel. And with that, that completes my presentation, and we'll welcome questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Dave
so much.
and Chandra. Justine, do we have any questions?
Yes, first question we have, and everyone else, feel free to put it in the chat, or if it's an extensive question, we can unmute you. First question is, there is a feasibility study in place that you were mentioning. Are there already existing studies or surveys that will shed light on the potential market for this service?
So the last study that's been done is in 2008, where the market for this ridership is the Platteville, Grant County, all the way to a little bit south of Dubuque. And then the campuses and then the communities on the road. But that is almost a decade back that analysis is done. So the new analysis, what we are doing now, will be more accurate. And with the trends in the market, we might see different numbers. So.
Awesome, thank you. Question for either of you, there's a lot of obviously some good things that could come of this. What kind of resistance has this met with, either from the community or legislatively or from railroads? Has there been any resistance?
Dave, you want me to address or you want to address this?
Well, I'll respond first. Our work has involved many different avenues. For instance, we did an online survey and requesting, and out of 797 or so responses, there was one negative, and that was cost. We also worked with the marketing class at Loras College in the fall of 2019. The class spent the whole term on passenger rail, and they did extensive surveys. They surveyed the college community, the student age group. They also served a group of young business travelers in a sort of a 26 to 50 age range. Then they also interviewed people of the parent that would be parents of college student age right now. And the other thing was retired people. And in all four of those categories, they got positive response to it, the importance of it, and also one of the things that really surprised us was a willingness that they would be willing to pay the cost of whatever it cost. So that's been, in our work at farmers market or places where we are, we're always surrounded by people wanting to know about passenger rail, and they express the hope that will come here. The question always seems to come up: how much will it cost? And that's why the importance of the feasibility study is so critical.
Excellent. I do not see any other questions in the chat, but if you think of something after this presentation, any of our attendees, feel free to email the chamber and we will get it to our two presenters to get you an answer. And thank you both for being here.
I would like to echo Justine's appreciation. Thank you, Chandra. Thank you, Dave. Very important information. As Justine mentioned, this program will be recorded and available on our chamber website to view at any time. We encourage you to seek out the information that you need so that you can talk about passenger rail service. And we thank you once again for joining us for the February monthly membership luncheon. And we will see you next month. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.